I'm going to actually take a swig before we start, too. Get nice and hydrated.
That would be alcohol, so yeah.
Oh, shit, I've made a mistake. And welcome to Netflix and Kill. Travis, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The movie we are covering today. You know what? Sometimes I can even, but sometimes I can't even.
I sometimes wish you wouldn't
And
even.
this one is one of those ones. Well, first of all, we need to introduce who we're reviewing this amazing movie with, because, one, it is me, Nick, the Merc with a Mic, as usual, your host. And of course, to my left is my fellow unapologist,
Travis.
the god of the pod himself. And of course, we have our special guest with this special movie, Pher Sturz. Pher, say hi.
Hi. It's me. The guy with I don't know, I can't rhyme tonight. I don't have a title that rhymes. I haven't earned it. I haven't killed my allotment of 5 people. I don't get a rhyming title.
We will edit that in.
We will edit it. Well, you already have the moniker Professor Fur, which I think was pretty cool. Yeah, so if we're going with handles there, but if you want,
I didn't go to school for 6 years for that.
That's okay. I don't think Dr. Dre has an actual doctorate, so I think you're in the clear. Then again, he might. You know what? I don't know a lot about Dr. Dre.
That'd be interesting.
You think he's a cardiologist? I think he's a cardiologist.
No, brain surgeon. Remember, it takes the least amount of work.
If Ben Carson can be a brain surgeon, I believe Dr. Dre is a fucking brain surgeon. But we are not talking about rappers and their possible credentials. We are, in fact, talking about
By the way,
Fuzz.
Dre, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. Dre did study at Princeton, though, so that is true.
Oh, is he a doctor?
Yeah, no, he's not a doctor. I think he just Anyways,
damn it. Okay,
could potentially have a doctorate.
He could have had a doctorate. Okay,
I didn't mean to jump over the announcement of the reason we're here.
No, it's way more important.
No, that's okay, Fur. I will possibly punish you later, but that's fine. We'll deal with that when we come to it. No, we're talking about Preppers today.
Sergeant Nicholas Angel, expert in hand-to-hand combat, armed response, and high-speed pursuit. He was so good, they reassigned him.
Right. You've been making us all look bad. There's one thing you haven't taken into account, and that's what the team is going to make of this.
Statistically, Sanford is the safest village in the country.
Now, this big city cop.
You ever fired 2 guns whilst jumping through the air?
No.
You ever fired 1 gun whilst jumping through the air?
No.
Must learn
Is it true that there is a place in a man's head that if you shoot it, it will blow up?
how to think small.
Morning, the swans escaped.
The swans escaped.
Can you describe it to me?
About 2 foot tall.
Yep.
Long, slender neck.
That's just going to scare it.
But in a place where not much goes on.
What's this? Ta-da!
A whole lot is about to go down.
3 people have died in a week.
Accidents happen all the time. What makes you think it was murder?
There hasn't been a murder in 20 years. You're saying this wasn't an accident?
Not everyone's a murdering psychopath. It's high time you realise that. You and your monkey.
Did he mean me or that?
Have you ever wondered why the crime rate is so low, and yet the accident rate is so high?
I'm going to bust this thing wide open.
From the guys who watched every action movie ever made and created Shaun of the Dead.
You never taken a shortcut before?
When the heat is on,
Here come the Fuzz.
you gotta call the Fuzz.
Gunfights, car chases.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hot Fuzz.
Got a mustache.
I know.
So, this was your pick, and I'm so glad you picked it. It's one of my favorite comedies, and I love Edgar Wright, especially the Cornetto trilogy. So, since it is your pick, would you like to give a brief rundown of what Hot Fuzz is actually about?
Yeah, so one Mr. Nicholas Angel, played by Simon Pegg, is too good at his job as a police officer in London, gets reassigned to a small village in Gloucester, where things are not quite as we seem. Over the course of the movie, there's uncovered all sorts of different conspiracies going on. Lots of explosions. It's fantastic. Nick Frost is incredible in it. It's incredible. There's all sorts of phenomenal cameos from different various British actors. I mean, it is not only a phenomenal homage to action films, but honestly, it's in probably my top 5 action films in general. So it is so good.
I could not agree with you more. It's really hard to pin down exactly. Well, I guess it's not that hard. It's Edgar Wright's style of comedy is so like it's one thing to write a joke and have it be very funny, some snappy dialogue back and forth. It takes a amount of skill there, but to have almost nothing in the frame going on and then still have it be funny, like just with how things enter the frame or how some characters look at each other, or just the visual aspect of a joke. Edgar Wright almost wastes no frame of screen time, and it's just amusing, at least amusing the whole way through. Like, I mean, it's not even like, I mean, sometimes people will say stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so funny. But even in the beginning part of this movie, where, let's face it, like the beginning part of this movie is actually without the editing's help is pretty boring.
Well, I mean, it's cut and dry exposition.
Its exposition is just about him getting used to this new village, but because of the way it's edited like the most mundane things are the most action heavy, dramatic things that you've ever seen. Like, there's him talking to his bosses, and it's just the way it's shot. You think it's the most serious thing, like they're talking about a terrorist heist or something.
It's like the most dramatic phone call I've ever seen.
Except it's just about them talking about his transfer, but it's the most dramatic way of him reaching for his phone. And even then they mislead you by thinking he's going to reach for his phone again when they talk to the upper supervisor, because it's of course it's like Martin Short and Steve Coogan. And then they even talk to the Bill Nighy, and then you think they're going to call him again with the severe cut, but no, it just cuts to the outside of the office. It's like, oh, I'm here already, and I'm like, oh, geez, I did not expect that. It was jarring and weird, and I kind of like it. But yeah, I really, really dig the visual aspect of a lot of what's going on, and for me, I know that Edgar Wright already also made another basically almost straight action movie with Baby Driver, but for me, this one works even better as just a straight action movie even.
Well, I think with this in a lot of aspects, and especially with this being the Blood and Cornetto trilogy, you see a lot of that thematic elements through both Shaun of the Dead and World's End. But I think with this one especially, it's important to have those jump cuts like that, because not only is it supposed to ridiculously exemplify, exaggerate these mundane scenes, but I also think it does a really good job of putting in the mindset of Nicholas Angel, who's going from daily life in London, getting stabbed by Peter Jackson dressed as Santa Claus, to doing nothing in the country, and having those jump cuts, like the beer mugs, the action shots of beer being poured into pint glasses. I think it really goes to show too that he's still in this mindset of running 100 miles an hour in an action-packed environment, when that's just not the case anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, they even fill out paperwork in a very big, dramatic fashion, which is pretty funny. Like most cop movies don't even bother with paperwork showing it.
They're too busy exploding things to do paperwork.
So it's just interesting that they show paperwork almost every time he does anything. He shows the paperwork afterwards. I just found that amusing too.
They even make that comment, I think, after watching after Danny gets him to watch I think Bad Boys 2 is it. He goes, that would be an extraordinary amount of paperwork. And and just the references to that throughout the entire movie, just, it's okay, we brought our own pens.
My ink's a little dry, like, don't worry, I brought my own. And it's just like the two pens that he dual wields, and I was just like, oh god, this is so funny. But yeah, I even like the Simon Pegg's name in the film, Nick Angel. I'm like, wow, what a cop name. But apparently it's not just a cop name, it's actually the name of his head music supervisor, Edgar Wright's. So I'm not sure if he just liked the name or if he wanted to pay credit to one of the guys he probably works highly with the most, since Edgar Wright loves, inserting music and musical cues into his films. So it does make for a great, like, oh, it's angel, or there's even some dialogue of like being dropped from heaven or something like that. It makes great for some cheesy dialogue as well. And let's talk about the dialogue for just a minute. This dialogue, Edgar Wright might be the master of setup and payoff, in which that everything that pays off in the third act is set up way earlier in the film. Like, it's shit that you, like, there's stuff that pays off that you didn't even know was set up in the first act. Like, there's a point where, did you catch this at the end where he talks to the kid he finds near the end of the climax, and he says, hey, what's your name, kid? Oh, it's Aaron A. Aronson. And he's like, wait a minute, what? And I was like, yeah, what? Like, I was like, why is that significant to me? And then I went back and I rewatched it, and I was like, oh shit, one of the Dick Andys of the two Andys cops, they were telling him, like, what are you gonna do? Just look for everyone starting in the phone book, like starting with with Aaron A. Aronson. And so he just finds an actual Aaron, the guy with that name, at the very end of this film. So, and even in the credits, it's listed in the beginning, because that would be the first one listed in the phone book. So there's just like a bunch of shit. Like, even the credits have jokes in them. Even the credits.
And I think that's so indicative of just how good Edgar Wright is. I mean, not even does the dialogue pay off within, from Act 1 to Act 3. I mean, even visually things pay off. There's so many visual jokes that they set up in the first one, whether or not it's the swan gag that happens throughout the whole movie. But even when they're going into the shop at the beginning, and there's a sign that says only one school child at a time, within that giant battle scene at the end, Simon Pegg uses that, or Nicholas Angel uses that when they send in like 10 or 11 school kids, and it throws off the aim of the shop owner because she's so freaked out at the fact that there's several school children in her shop.
Well, because the buzzer like dings, ding, 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 ding.
It's right.
She knows they're there.
It's so good, and I mean, I like the other two Edgar Wright movies of the trilogy are good, but I don't think there's as many brilliant payoffs in Shaun of the Dead and World's End as there was within this one, from Act 1 to the final act of the film. And it just, I can't stop gushing over Edgar Wright's filmmaking ability with this.
I mean, I'm going to have to agree with Fher here. I think this one is downright my favorite of the Cornetto trilogy. I know a lot of people still prefer Shaun of the Dead, which I agree is a very good film, and is very near quality of this one. But it's just, I find this one so funny every time I watch it. I just can't. There's not, like, we're going to get to a section where, like, usually we get to a section of where, like, well, what didn't work for you in this film, or what did you not find was good? And I'm going to have a hard time in that section, because there's just not a lot. There's not any moment on the frame that I don't really find enjoyable in this movie. we were talking about Peter Jackson before too, as one of the cameos as Father Christmas, and that's pretty funny. But you know that his girlfriend is also played by Cate Blanchett.
I saw that in the trivia. I'm like, really? Didn't see that one.
It's because she never takes off her mask.
No.
It's like
I'm just like, huh, interesting.
That was amazing. And I was like, wait, didn't I see you fuck up Ragnarok at some point? Like, what? And yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Well, there are so many cool cameos within the movie, both credited and uncredited. I mean, you've got Stephen Merchant shows up in the village as Peter Ian Staker. Come on, piss taker, come on! The swan's out. I cannot for the life of me remember the actor's name, but Walder Frey from Game of Thrones, he shows up in it.
He's the guy with the mine.
Yes.
It's incredible to me how they can score all of these legendary British actors. The villain, I cannot remember the actor's name for the life of me, plays Indy's main villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He gets his face melted off by the Nazis. By the Angels when the Ark gets open. He's in the movie too as one of the Neighborhood Watch Alliance members. So it's so cool to me how they can.
I did not even notice that.
Yeah, it's amazing how they can get all of these big. Fucking James Bond is in this movie.
Damn right.
And let's not forget the Hound.
We'll talk about Timothy Dalton in a minute. But I think it's because just Edgar Wright, comes the name recognition with Edgar Wright where people respect him so much that I think a lot of these actors are willing to come in just for like a day of shooting and just like to be in the film. And like, I would imagine they'd have to do it for scale or for not a lot of money because like the budgets on these movies are never that big. But yeah, I love Timothy Dalton in this movie as our setup, are kind of like, oh, well, he's got to be the antagonist by the end of it when we first see him in the beginning. Travis had not seen this movie before we watched it. So he was like, so is this guy a red herring? Because he's so obviously the villain. Like... Because he comes up
he gets to a point where I'm like, no, you're just spouting obviously villain lines at this point.
He has such aggressive dialogue.
He does.
Where
it's supposed to crack open your head and find out what secrets are inside. I'm like, no, all right. Letting it go.
My disloyal customers, I'd have, if it were up to me, I'd have it off with their heads. And it's just really, like, very aggressive, like, killery dialogue. And there's a lot of that going on. Even when he, drives up to crime scenes. The music in the car that that he's driving usually reflects whatever the crime scene was or something. Like I think Romeo and Juliet, the song Romeo and Juliet is actually playing when he comes up on the actors who are playing those respective roles. I think some song having to do with fire comes up when he drives past the mansion explosion. So yeah, I greatly enjoy Timothy Dalton's shit-eating grin in this movie. And yeah, I mean, we'll get into it in the spoiler section too, but I love the action. I actually like the plot of this movie, like it seems like it's setting up this big, plot thing of like this bypass. And
like the Scooby-Doo plot.
Yeah, but then even by the end of it, you realize like, oh no, it's actually something completely different and like 10 times more insane. Like it's actually it's at the same time much simpler and way crazier.
It's one of those obvious payoffs that you're just like, oh, watching the movie, because I mean, I have to have seen Hot Fuzz at least 10 times. Where as you watch it, you're like, oh, that actually makes sense that'd be the reason they're doing things. Like none of these people are smart enough to be like looking at the, for the reason you think, and then to have it be like, oh, okay, that's why. It just, why not have it be that?
Well, I feel like that doing it that way is for the greater good.
Greater good.
The greater good.
So yeah, I mean. I also love that, it's just like Shaun of the Dead where they have that conversation early where it calls everything that's going to happen in the third act. Danny is talking to Nick and he keeps asking him of stuff he's done as a cop, and it's like, hey, have you ever shot your gun up in the air, like in Point Break? Have you ever fired your gun in a high speed pursuit? And it's like, no, I would never do that. Like, that's all ridiculous. Like, and then everything he asks, they do in the third act. Absolutely everything that gets asked by Danny, they end up doing in the third act, which I find very funny.
Well, he also spends a lot of time showing him the movies those things come from, too.
Yeah, and apparently, Nick Frost would only do the film if he got to name his character, if I'm reading this trivia right. And he was also asked to watch 20 action films to warm up for the role. He only watched the one, which was Bad Boys 2.
Well, yeah, why would you need to watch more after that?
Well, Bad Boys 2 is like 20 action films rolled into one, so I feel like that's fitting.
I do think my favorite bit of information about the movie was that, and like watching it numerous times, you pick this up. There was supposed to be a love interest character for Nicholas Angel. However, Edgar Wright realized that having to shoehorn that in was going to make things difficult. And it ended up where they had all of this dialogue between Simon Pegg and whoever the actress was that was going to play this love interest. And when they cut her out, they just had all of this extra dialogue, and Nick Frost said, "Give it to me, I'll do it." And so half of the scenes between Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, there's supposed to be like a romantic love connection point between them. Except that they just got rid of the love interest and gave it to like a bromance kind of feel to it.
Oh, that makes so much sense to me.
It really does, because the whole entire time I'm like, am I reading too much into this? Nope, that's definitely there.
Dude, there's that moment in the rain where it's like, hey, do you want to go and get a drink? Like, there's always something going on. You don't know how to turn off, and he runs away in the rain. I'm like, oh my god, what did I
Is he supposed to chase after his girlfriend? No, wait, no, that's not his girlfriend, that's his partner, right?
Well, I mean, I even liked it when he kind of got back on his good side by like, calling him partner, like, hey, I think we can crack this case wide open, but I'm gonna need your help, partner. Partner? Yeah, let's go. And then Nick Frost is like, yeah! And he gets all excited again. And then Simon Pegg, is actually gonna get his birthday present, which is one of those plants. I forget what they're called. Damn it!
It's like a
Peace lily.
Peace lily. That's right. Thank you, Pher. And yeah, that leads him to the one of the other murders, which is great because
no, Nick, it wasn't a murder. She tripped.
It's like, well, it's the other ones you could go like, okay, well, I guess they're accidents. Although, how weird is it that all these random accidents happen at the same time? But then once he gets to the gardening shears, and it's like, well, you think this is an accident? No, I don't. I actually do not think this is an accident. And so, yeah, and there's some, oh my goodness, as far as kills go, favorite kills,
Jeez,
I don't know.
They're all beautiful.
There's some gory shit in here too. Like, there's some really, like, there's a guy whose head fucking explodes, with the debris that hits him, like with this like giant stone tablet, and he walks around like he's some sort of discount version of Pyramid Head.
He's just a chicken. Got his head off. It's fine.
Like very Edgar Wrightian in that the sudden like explosion of gore. I mean, we had that in Shaun of the Dead when what's his face gets dragged out of the pub by the zombies, and you're like, oh, he's gonna get eaten, and they literally show them ripping his intestines out, like, and I'm trying to think of what it was in World's End, because I feel like there was one of those in World's End, but I can't place on it. But like, just the head explosion in Hot Fuzz, where with the pyre falling down, was just like, yep, there's the Edgar Wright we know and love that's just gonna throw a dash of gore at you when you least expect it.
I think my favorite is actually the house blowing up, just because they spent so much time setting up the breakfast.
Yeah, I loved it because they kept cutting back and forth between Nick Frost and Simon Pegg's characters, and then the house explosion, where it's like, it takes some time to set up this explosion.
It does.
Like,
it's not an immediate thing.
Like, I actually like that they put the work in of like setting up the frame job a lot. And yeah, I do like Nick Angel as a character as well, because Travis was saying something when we were watching. It was like this is really Nick's story of learning of his character learning how to relax basically in this small town and kind of having fun and being but also like murdering a bunch of old people as well by the end of it.
Because some of those people are dead. I don't care if they show the mugshots or not. Those people are dead.
We'll have to get to that in the spoiler section. But like, the final shootout is like this glorious big. The film finally indulges in, it's not just the editing making things seem epic anymore. It's actually like huge and everything is shit is going down. Like shit is real. But yeah, we even the Hound makes an appearance in this one as what's his name in the film?
Some kind of Lurch motherfucker.
The shop boy or whatever.
I think it is Lurch.
Lurch.
I don't think it was actually, but
it's I know we called him Lurch, but I just thought we were making fun of him because of the Addams Family.
I think it was actually like Michael.
It is. Yep, it's Michael.
And I did not recognize him for the longest time, and what a role to say yes to. Like, okay, what you're gonna do is your only line is yarp
or narp
like no, he doesn't even say narp. Simon Pegg says narp.
Well, he does. I thought he said it as well.
No, because that's the joke, is that he doesn't know what else he says because he's Timothy Dalton has asked him to affirm
I know.
a bunch of stuff, and then he's saying like, so he won't be a problem anymore. He won't be a problem anymore, and then Simon Pegg doesn't know what to say because he's only ever heard this person say yarp, so he's like, narp? Okay, good. Oh, so he just takes a random guess at it.
I didn't recognize him at first either. Like, it took almost like the last season, and I'm like, wait a damn second. I go to IMDb. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's him.
It's hard when you've only ever seen him either in Game of Thrones, where he's all dirty, or in Triple X. And who remembers that movie?
Yeah, I just don't remember the movie.
So, yeah, I really, really can't say enough good things about this film. I mean, I don't know. What were some of your favorite parts, Travis? What was like your favorite joke that you can remember?
I don't know. The movie all around is like pretty great. I think one of my biggest complaints actually I have is that through a lot of the movie, I'm just like, when he's the main character sitting there like, oh my god, I'm so miserable. I'm like, yeah, why don't you just become a PI then? Like, that was the most glaring part of this movie where I'm like, you could just become a detective instead.
No, he doesn't respect. He respects the law too much, Travis. He doesn't. Not those dirty PI workers. I think he might actually have a problem with some of those ones who are only take cases based off of money.
Could be.
Rather than merit.
But they also get to do their jobs.
Well, he gets to do his job too. It's just very boring for him. And I even like where he cuts out all the minors that are drinking in that pub. And
the pub was filled with nothing but minors, apparently.
It's a ghost town, and I love that the shopkeeper's like, another cranberry juice for you, and he's like, no, I'm good, thanks. And it's just this animosity that he's drawing to himself almost immediately.
Although you think that would, like, I get their whole entire idea of like, oh yes, if the children are here, they're not elsewhere, but I'm like, yeah, but aren't a bunch of drunk children also going to cause problems?
Yeah, yeah, well, then again, we do find out there's like a reasoning for it later,
right?
Which the grand scheme of
I
things.
do get that, but just like I feel like that would cause its own set of problems for their plan.
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I just find that not only is this just at work as just this dressing down of action movies of the time period, and as much as a parody, I think it also works as just a straight up, regular action movie as well too. Like, it's exciting. I want certain characters to make it out of the situation. I'm intrigued by the mystery. Like, it works on all levels, which is it's just a testament to how good Edgar Wright is at what he does.
Well, I think part of that is that it's not a straight up parody. And I think that's why Shaun of the Dead worked too, and why World's End worked as well as they did, is because you have, you've got movies like, for instance, Scary Movie, which, I mean, the first two weren't bad, but like those movies where it's straight parodies, where it hits you over the head with the joke of like, the joke is that someone breaks their leg when they're running away from the killer all the time. Whereas in this movie, I mean, you're having these massive shootouts where obviously things are getting destroyed, and then they have to go and do the paperwork because, yes, that is something that would happen in real life. I think I read that there were there's over 100 different action movies that are referenced within Hot Fuzz, but I think what makes it work so beautifully is that it doesn't hit you over the head with the references. You're able to look and say, like, oh, that was actually a call to Point Break. Oh, that one was a call out to Bad Boys 2, without being, hey, here is this scene shot for shot from Bad Boys 2. Let's make a reference to it. I think that's what's really cool about not only this movie, but the other two genre movies that Wright tackled in the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much I love the Bad Boys 2 rotating camera shit just got real scene. I just love, like, it's because it's like it's one of those things that I'm like, man, I kid and we make fun of it, but I do love that shot in action movies. It looks really cool.
You like a lot of action movie tropes, though.
And yeah, so I love that when that pays off later. And guys, you really need to read the trivia on this movie as well on IMDb, because I was laughing during the trivia during some of this here, because apparently Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg went to Brixton Police Station in order to get some stories from some of the officers there, and they even offered to take them for a drink or later or something, but all the officers refused because the liaison officer wrongly told them that they were journalists.
Ooh.
And right underneath here in the trivia, I'm not lying, it says the liaison officer has never been forgiven.
By which party, though?
I don't know. It doesn't state.
Yes,
I would say that I would think all around.
No one forgave him.
I also think it's very prescient too that Nick Angel is transferred for being too good at his job and for embarrassing the rest of the police department, because it makes me think of that story of, what was that guy, one of the police officers that just won his case recently of wrongful termination because they fired him because he didn't shoot a guy immediately when he rolled up on him. It was that guy wanted to commit suicide by cop with an empty gun, and he talked him down. And then when the rest of when his fellow officers showed up, they immediately shot the guy, and they fired the first police officer for not shooting him immediately and putting his fellow officers in danger. And I was always like, what? But no, they weren't in danger. You're the other officers were the one that escalated the situation and put everyone else in danger. Like, and killed a guy that didn't need to die. And it's because that, like, I don't know, like I'm not sure if it's the same way in England or whatnot, but it was interesting for me to see that. I was just like, oh yeah, the whole police force is not really, it's like, are we going to try and come up to Simon Pegg's level of being good at our jobs? Nah, let's just get rid of them so that everyone else is comfortable with the amount of work that we do now.
It does make you feel really bad for him too, when he keeps like trying to go up the chain to be like, no, this person won't be fired, then this person, I'll go all the way down the chain. The police force won't be fired. And yeah, they all do.
Yeah, no one likes this guy.
Like, everyone wants him gone.
Yeah. So yeah, the film is relevant even today.
Well,
so
I wonder how much is different between, you mentioned like being in England and America. Even most officers in England aren't actually armed unless they're part of a special force like the SWAT team. He was part of that in the movie. He mentions being a part of the special forces within the police force. So I do think that there's. I don't know that you could make a Hot Fuzz type movie in America, especially probably now, just because it's kind of hard to, maybe justifiably so, make a good cop fighting the dirty cops movie.
Yeah, it's I don't know. it would be interesting to see what that version would be like. And I do like that most of the time where it would show him cocking his gun or whatever, it shows him flipping open his notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like that's his weapon. It's his service weapon.
Well, they state that as the most important thing.
Like, this thing has saved my life more times than I'm willing to admit, sort of thing. And I just thought that was funny too.
One of the many Chekhov's items that pays off later as well, which again shows the genius of Edgar Wright a little bit.
Oh, sure. Like, I mean, I love the fact that there's a Chekhov sea mine in this movie. Like, that's got to be the first time one of those has ever been in play. So yeah, absolutely love this film. Is there anything anyone wants to mention, like, last minute before we just move into, the spoiler section?
Anything left to spoil besides the main thing?
Well, I want to just talk about the climax for the next goddamn 15 minutes. But
I have to give a specific point of love. I think probably like the most laugh out loud moment within the movie for me, and a lot of. I mean, whereas like in Shaun of the Dead, there's some definite like laugh out, haha, out loud moments. A lot of this movie is very much like, oh, that was really, really funny, really well done. That was cool. Like, I'm not exactly like losing my mind laughing over it. But the one that did it for me was when they go to see Romeo and Juliet. And not only is it really bad, but then, Juliet shoots herself, and then they cut to the Cardigans' Love Fool. And that's one of like my favorite moments in any of the Simon or in the Edgar Wright movies, just to have a shout out to Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet in the middle of a fucking action movie.
I completely forgot about that. That's right.
Pretty good.
I was just like, what the fuck is happening?
Love me, love me.
Oh, goodness. But yeah, with that, I think we're going to just get ready to get into some final thoughts and ratings before we move into our spoilerific spoiler section. I can't express how much this movie made me laugh. Every time I watch it, it seems like every time I watch it, I catch something new and different, this time around. And I even caught some new things going this time. I really like Simon Pegg as an actor more and more. I think I respect him as an actor more and more, because there's a lot of stuff for him to do while playing it very reserved here as this, as the straight man. I mean, there's a moment in here where they have a cake enter the frame and he gives it the side eye and says, "No thanks." But he really does come off as, "Get that fucking cake out of my face." And even him refusing cake is funny to me in this film in a way that I can't even describe. So yeah, for me, it's going to be a rare Nick Pick, 5 out of 5 for me, guys. I love this film. I couldn't highly recommend it more. Fher, what do you think?
I kind of want to piggyback off of just Simon Pegg's acting. I love how over the 3 movies within the Cornetto trilogy, the different roles that him and Nick Frost take on. Of course, in Shaun of the Dead, you've got neither one of them really playing the straight man to the goof, as it were. In this one, it's definitely Simon Pegg playing the straight man, and then at World's End, it actually flops a little bit, where Nick Frost plays the straight man. But I love just everybody's role in this. There's not a single person who is out of place. There's not a single bit of loose end that doesn't get tied up. I give it 2 guns being fired in the air going, out of 2.
Love it. Travis, what do you think, buddy?
Well, again, like I said, this is my first time having watched this movie, and going into it, we were watching this, and it's like, oh man, I love Hot Fuzz. I haven't seen it in a while. I hope it's as good as I thought, and it's funny. And we're watching it, and of course it's funny, but then it gets to like the twist climax, and I'm like, this is getting way darker than I expected from this kind of movie. Which is not to its detriment at all. Like, it's almost a little off-putting, but they play it so well with just like, now we're just gonna throw in all the action tropes we've been setting up this whole entire movie, that it works better than another movie might. And I think that just goes to show how good of a filmmaker Edgar Wright actually is. So I'll probably give this one an 8 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right. So with that, we can.
Why did you hate the movie, Travis? I don't.
I don't know.
Why did you hate Hot Fuzz so much? I don't understand. What?
It's just because you chose it, and I had to just knock you down a few pegs.
You got to understand by the. Did you just make a pun off of the word peg?
Possibly.
Well, fuck you, you piece of shit.
Hey guys, before we get to the spoilers, isn't it fucked up how we almost got an Edgar Wright Ant-Man movie?
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of got half of one, I guess.
Sort of, but we could have gotten a full Edgar Wright Ant-Man movie, and that's never going to happen. And I'm very upset that we're not in that universe.
I'm disappointed as well, but I think there was more in that deal that seemed to shake out between both parties. So. I don't know. I would love to see his superhero film, and maybe we can find one of them these days. There's still the Atom. We can get the Atom if he goes into the DC crew. But with that, yeah, we will take a small musical break. But first, I would like Pher, tell the people where they can find you and maybe your comedy album or anything else you would like to pimp.
Oh yeah, gosh, I've got a lot of stuff coming up here. This Friday night, that would be Friday the 23rd of March, I am going to be at Can Wonderland in Minneapolis for Retro Game Night, brought to you by Fearless Comedy Productions. I think we're producing that show. But basically, I'm on a panel with Mary Jo Pehl of Mystery Science Theater 3000 fame.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I get to perform with her. Couple of weekends from this weekend, it is the Die Laughing Marathon at Phoenix Theater in Uptown Minneapolis. It's a 50-hour comedy marathon brought to you by Fearless Comedy Productions. It's one of our biggest fundraisers. We will be streaming the event live, so feel free to tune in. The second weekend in April, that's the 6th through the 8th, runs from 7 p.m. Friday till 9 p.m. Sunday, I believe. Full 50 hours. It's going to be a lot of fun. And feel free to tune in and donate to that. June 22nd, I will be headlining at the Plus here in Eau Claire. Feel free to show up. I don't have a time for that yet because I got to figure out what the time is. And as always, check out my album, Everybody's Having So Much Fun, on Spotify and iTunes.
Great. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you would like to watch Hot Fuzz before you go into the spoiler section, now is your time. I mean, I don't know if you haven't watched it already. I mean, what the hell's wrong with you?
It's been out for almost 10 years. Actually, it's been 10 years. Jesus. It got released in February of 2007 is when that movie came out.
Get on that shit.
I mean, I didn't watch it before this, but apparently I hated the movie, so what can I say?
Yeah, Jesus.
Internet rules, Travis. If you didn't give it a perfect score, you hated that fucking thing.
I hate a lot of movies.
You hate so many movies, there's no room in your heart, you Grinch.
I have a heart, I just don't have a soul. It's different.
So I've given you your fair warning, guys. We're going to take a small musical break, and we'll be back with the spoiler section right after this.
My, here come the Fuzz.
And welcome to the spoiler section for Netflix and Kill. Oh boy, so yeah, I love the climax of this film, but I also like the big reveal of the ultimate plot. So what we see and what Nick Angel thinks is the ultimate plot is something to do with this bypass and this land deal. And it feels very,
super Scooby-Doo-ish.
Sure, it reminds me of all the plots that you don't actually remember from Beverly Hills Cop 2 or or maybe basically any of the Beverly Hills Cop movie or the Lethal Weapon sequels. There's always a plot going on, but you never actually remember them. There's always some sort of land deal or business deal or stock exchange or money laundering, and it's that's just an excuse for all the characters to shoot at each other.
This one really, you expect him to pull off the robed guys, be like, "Old man Filch, it was you all along."
I do like that they have this big, they all have these black robes to wear. And so the ultimate reveal is that it's not just Timothy Dalton, but it's also it's Timothy Dalton and basically everybody above the age of, I want to say 60 in the town.
Something like that.
Or like they all have created this cabal. And they want the what's the name of the village? I've forgotten. Oh shit.
Sanford.
Sanford. They want it to be the model village, the greatest village around, and
they've won the award for it too.
Yeah, they want to win the award for it.
A year. Yeah, they've won it before, and it's because of this Neighborhood Watch Alliance that is secretly removing anybody that could be causing any negativity within the town.
And by removing, he means kill.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why all the murders are happening. Not because of this land deal or anything like that, or anything that would, I don't know, make sense. Like,
it's kind of fucked up, especially when they sit down and they just explain all the reasons why they killed the people. I'm like, you people are psychotic.
Like, it's so fucking crazy. Like, it's like, no, we just murdered that guy because he was a horrible actor.
Yeah.
Like,
he murdered Bill Shakespeare.
What? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Like,
what about the girl? Oh, did you hear her laugh? Ugh.
She had a very annoying laugh. Like, they just break it down. Even the woman that they were like, wait a minute, one of those was one of yours. Her horticulture skills put Sanford on the map. And it's like, yeah, but she was talking about leaving and moving away. And if we can't have her, no one can. And I just like, the more they explain it, like, it's just the crazier it is, and it just makes me laugh every time of like the premise of like all of this murder. And he finds falls into the catacombs, and he finds all those dead bodies of like the gypsies and like even the dog skeleton,
and the children from the beginning of the movie.
Yes, and what gets me most about that is that there's the living statue still there. And he's held up with his hands up, like, "Oh no, don't kill me!" And he's like in this frozen statue.
And of course, the old police sergeant with his great big bushy beard.
Yes. And then there's somehow a skeleton with a fucking beard on it. So I was just like, wow, it's such a great way to reveal that at the end there too, because I'll always remember that actual plot line because it's so ridiculous. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, it leads to a seeming betrayal by Nick Frost's character, and but oh no, it was him using the ketchup technique that he used earlier in the film.
That was one of the ones where I'm like, yay, Danny's on his side.
And he's starting to break it down like, I didn't know all this shit was happening. Just get out of here. Go get out of here. Instead of like, cause it seems like, Simon Pegg is going to go to the police force, in London and like, get backup and come back. But, ultimately he decides just to go back and take care of it himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he wrangles up a bunch of the kids together. He walks into the police station and just takes all of the guns. Like, all of them.
And the police chief is a member of this, like, council. And he's just, like, doesn't even notice. No one thinks to warn him.
He just walks right in and right out with all this arsenal. Most of it coming from, Filch's character, who is just hoarding guns.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this ultimate shootout, like anything that you could think happened in an action movie, it happens here.
This happens with one of my favorite setups of the movie, is that in the beginning, when they're asking, like, who has guns? Farmers. Who else? Their mums?
Their mums?
And they do show, like, this, like, the first person he fights is, like, this farmer, and his, like, old wife has a gun.
Yep. And everything that they shoot two guns in the air, and while falling forwards, they shoot giant like signs or bear traps onto people's heads.
Yeah, that guy's dead.
And they use a small army of children in the fight,
and a swan.
The swan comes into it again. The priest comes out with like these taxi driver sleeve guns, like it's really funny to see like all these older members of the town, and you realize they were ready to go to war at any given point, right?
Drop of the hat.
Like they had all these guns on them at any time, like, and just in case this sort of thing happened. And even our character rides in on a fucking white horse.
That was random.
Check out his horse.
This is amazing. Love this. And of course, Nick Frost comes in and saves him a couple times near the end. And I love it when he takes out that lady on the bike, like when he first gets into it. He's like, "Fuck yeah!" I don't know. I really like how big and go for broke this climax is. Even the other police officers come in and join his side at one point, because it's like, I mean, this shit is crazy, right? Like, maybe we should team up with the guy that is like, yeah, he's shooting up the town, but since when did all these other people have guns? Like,
well, then they've been brainwashed to basically rationalize away a large amount of accidents. Where it's like, no, just we don't have a lot of murder here, but the accident rate is super high. Huh, weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we get a great, car chase sequence with Timothy Dalton, and there's a fight in an actual model version of the village.
That was weird.
Which makes it look kind of like a
kaiju fight,
which I appreciate. And yeah, I really like that. Like, even that one was set up earlier. It's like, hey, you want to be a big cop in a small village? Why don't you go to the actual model village? I think is one of the things that one of the Dick Andys say. So that pays off again. The Swan comes back. I love the Swan in the back seat of the car. Like, they take a minute to stop in the middle of the action sequence to pick up the Swan that has been terrorizing the town. Which I mean, if you've ever tangled with fowl of that size before, like a swan or a goose, yeah, you take out that billy club.
They're quite foul.
Yeah,
dude,
excessive force.
You just gotta grab them by the neck and swing them. I mean, I'll fuck with geese. Like, I'll fuck one of them up like that. You just gotta don't let it bite you. They got teeth on their tongue, but I mean, if you can grab one goose by the neck, you can use that thing like a weapon, just to billy club the other ones. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Fur is speaking like he has had general experience with that. Makes me concerned, but all right.
Yeah, geese are assholes. It's fine.
Hey, man, geese lives matter.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. Travis coming down very anti-foul this episode.
Actually, in Minnesota, you're allowed to shoot them as pests. They are considered they're considered pest creatures. So if you got a gun on you, you can just light up a motherfucker. And just drop a geese where you see them.
So yeah, like geese do, it fucks up the main bad guy when he's trying to get away in the police car, which I thought was pretty fun. And we have another ending too, because everyone is in the police station. Having a good time, and it's like, yeah, I think I'm going to stay here, because he gets the offer to go back to London. He's like, no, I like it here. They're all joking, have a great time. Suddenly, I forget his name, but he's the guy that's operating all the fucking view screens in the police station. And he comes down with this fucking blunderbuss.
It really is.
Like, out of nowhere. I was like, what the fuck is that? And he shoots Danny, and Nick has
Danny, no.
And then Nick has to take him out with the wastebasket, knocks him over, but knocks him into the mine, which is great.
Apparently is still alive.
And it blows up the entire building, and somehow still nobody dies.
No, not even Danny, who has got like pellets in him.
I'm wondering if even the guy that was underneath the mine died.
Probably not. No one actually dies in this movie, except for all the people they killed.
Well, they show everyone getting arrested at the end of it. And it's like, oh yeah, all these people survived that final battle sequence. And I'm like, are you sure?
Nope.
Like, there are some people there took some seriously hard hits.
And they're all old. I mean, there's the one guy who gets hit in the back of the knees with a barrel. I'm like, oh yeah, he broke his hip. Like, he is old.
Maybe they're just infirmed. Like, they just, maybe they don't quite walk right ever again, but yeah. Anyway, we see Simon Pegg giving flowers at this grave. We're supposed to think it's Danny, and suddenly Danny comes up into the frame like, "No, I'm cool. I'm fine." And we get the final send off where they basically just drive off to their next police work, and it's like fuck yeah, and they get the chase on, or I almost expected the Bad Boys 2 soundtrack to come on at that point. I would have loved some Bad Boys, but yeah, that was basically the crazy fucking ending of Hot Fuzz. I'm not sure if there's anything else anyone wants to spoil or anything last minute we want to mention here.
I will say that my first senior quote that I submitted for the yearbook was originally from Hot Fuzz, but apparently I was not allowed to put in the yearbook "You're off the fucking chain" as my senior quote. So they made me send that one back, which.
Boo.
Yeah.
Well, I did like that because he throws Sandor Clegane into the freezer, and I like Nick Frost is like, "Did you say anything? You didn't say anything cool when you threw him in the freezer? Like it's time to put you on ice." No, but I did when I clocked him with the plant earlier. I was when he was holding there was a thing with the monkey, and I said like playtime was over, and he was like, "Yeah, you're off the fucking chain." I love the little conversation even in midst the gunfight. And even when he first meets that old woman in the hotel, like what the first thing he says, like fascist,
the aggressive something.
It's the crossword puzzle they're finishing, and then he responds with like hag. It's like 12 down. That comes back in the final climax. I also I also really like that bear trap sequence. Like that might be one of my favorite. Like I was like, oh shit! Like I thought it was just gonna knock him on the head, like a Looney Tunes cartoon. But to see it like come around his head, I was just like, oh shit! Like, and yeah, I really did like love the crazy over the topness of this amazing fight. I found an appropriate end to this crazy film. One other thing I want to mention. I even wrote it down somewhere here. Now I'm completely forgetting. There's one thing I wanted to mention. It was just a small thing. Is the swear box that they have. I found it interesting that all the words in there are, edited, are bleeped out. They're using ampersands and things to block it out. So it looks, it's not quite fuck or bitch or ass. But the one word that is completely written where it's completely legible and not blocked out in any way is cunt. Like that's the one word that is not censored in any way, shape, or form, which I always thought was odd. I was like, wait a minute, really? Isn't that like one of the worst, most offensive words? But I just found that as a funny little visual joke. But yeah, considering that this town, all it wants to be is like the model village, and having the final climax take place partially in a model village. There's just, there's a lot of layers going on there. I like it. But yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. We've covered the gambit between visual gags to Baz Luhrmann references. So
a lot of things.
I think we got this one covered, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Anytime. It's always a pleasure to be on with you, and have me on again sometime soon. Yeah.
We are excited to have you on again. If you're going to pick movies like this, the pressure's on. Like, I don't know what you're going to pick next.
Well, I think what we could do, we could just follow the alphabetical order. So when you type in hot on Netflix, the first one that comes up is Hot Fuzz, but the next one is Hotel for Dogs. So I think that could be good.
Sure. I thought he was going to say The Hot Chick with Rob Schneider for a minute.
God. God damn. Did not pay me enough.
Someone would die watching that. Someone would die.
The Aaron Aronson version of picking movies. I like it. I like this idea. Movies from A to Z. But yeah, that was amazing. Make sure to check out Pher's comedy album and any of the places where he's going to be. The guy is amazingly funny. And you should definitely see him in person because of just how good looking he is too. You're not getting the full experience. I mean, if you think he sounds sexy, it's amazing. I love the biggest laugh I got from Pher tonight was when I told him he was handsome. That's but you guys so much for listening. We're Unapologists Geek Out, and this podcast has been for the greater good. Greater good. Greater good. Greater good.